Thank you, Ray. I don't want to keep people away from the most exciting part of this presentation, which is our live Q&A. I'm excited to get to it. But before we do that, I really want to thank every one of you for attending and thank all of our speakers and the organizers, both within the Office of Generic Drugs and our CDER collaborators with the SBIA program for putting together this exciting webinar. There's three things that I think you should take away from this event. First, guidances or recommendations. Almost every speaker has emphasized this, and this is really important because I think that in our culture, and I mean our culture, both within the FDA generic drug program and the industry we interact with, people sometimes say, well, oh, the guidance is, that's the rule. We've got to follow that. That's the only thing we can do. And I think you've heard from almost every speaker today that the guidances or recommendations and other approaches are acceptable, and there's processes and things you can do about that. So that's a key message for all of you to hear, that the guidance is the recommendations. And the reason this is important is the second key point. What do we want from our product-specific guidances? As the title of this webinar says, PSGs light the path, right? We want our product-specific guidances to give you as clear as possible path for generic product development. But at the same time, we do not want those product-specific guidances to diminish innovation or creativity or improvements in efficiency. And in order to balance those two things, it's important to emphasize the third point. The guidances are the recommendations. They're there, people can follow them, have clarity, but they don't preclude innovation. I'm really supportive of innovation. Our regulatory science program is an innovation driver. To develop generic versions of complex products, we need the generic industry engaged in innovative, creative, and new approaches to bioequivalence that can make efficient versions of those products available. And I think one of the great things about our system for the complex generics is it really explicitly talks about this. Our guidance on the GDUFA 2 pre-ANDA meeting says, for complex products, FDA will meet with you to discuss your alternative approach to a product-specific guidance. So it explicitly says you want to do something that's driving innovation and it's going to make a big difference. So it's a significant change in a different bioequivalence approach. We will meet with you about those approaches and give you scientific feedback. I think that's a great feature of the GDUFA 2 program that industry and FDA negotiated around that balancing between having PSGs being transparent and available and also providing mechanisms for innovation. That's important. The final message to take away today ties into this again. I know that within the industry there's angst about the PSG revisions, and I hope you've heard about the guidances and recommendations. There is flexibility within the system, but also to put the revisions in context. As several speakers said, we want the PSG program to be as transparent as possible, so you're not surprised. So sometimes the revisions, even though they're not good news, they're as early news as we can transmit to you that things have changed. Maybe the reference product labeling has changed, so you're as aware as early as possible about things that will affect your development program. And secondly, for the revisions, if you look at for our complex products, very small number are major revisions. Many of the revisions we make bring new innovations and new approaches into the PSG program. And as you've noted, many of our PSGs start to provide options. We again try to do this to make sure that it's clear that as new approaches come in, when they're complementary and when they replace previous approaches. So hopefully this webinar has really given you a deeper understanding of the incredible value that the PSG program and all of these almost 2,000 PSGs provide to you, the generic drug industry, about developing products. And I look forward to our discussion. I appreciate all the questions that people have asked. I see over 100 questions. Not sure I'll be able to get to all of them, but I look forward to a lively discussion. And with that, we'll go back to Ray, and who will moderate our questions. Thank you all very much for.
Thank you, Dr. Lionberger. Moving into our Q&A panel, we welcome back